Yes. Welcome to Liquid Lunch. It's me, Hugh, and Hilton is my co-host today. Hilton, great to have you on
Hi,
the show.
Hugh.
Oh, hi.
Isn't that a nice sound? Hi, Hugh.
Hi, Hugh. Well, I've heard a lot of it in my life, so maybe I'm just used to it, you know?
Yeah, it's good to get used to actually appreciate our names. I think people do, and it makes a difference.
It's funny about the name because, you know, they say people become their names.
Mm-hmm.
And to a large extent, that is true.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, I don't know if you've noticed, they're changing their names or they're changing the spelling of their names so that numerologically it all,
Yes.
you know, it adds up to something different.
Yes. Yes.
And it's just curious. I've had some people change their names and it didn't fit right. It didn't feel right to me.
Mm-hmm.
And, and of course we have Vanessa, who's like, I think she still needs to find her name that works for her.
Yes. In certain traditions, every year, the elders of some indigenous groups will give, or the community or each member will select a new name for that year.
Right. Really?
As an identifier.
Yeah.
To allow them to grow into sort of full expression of being human and spirit and and integrating mind, body, and soul.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like a lovely idea. Like, I cannot imagine my name being Tom.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were Tom for a year, how would that shape me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I hear that.
I can imagine more Tomahawk, but Tom, on its own. So Tom and Hawk.
I changed my name one year, or not 1 year, but I did use a different name for a while.
Yes, and how was that?
It was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I changed it to Brad.
Yes.
Why did I do that? First of all, somebody told me I was trying on new glasses. An experience I know you're a little bit familiar with.
Yes.
And somebody who I was working with at the time said, you look like a Brad in those glasses. And I thought, okay. And I was looking for another name anyway because of a work situation.
Yes.
Use in a work situation.
Yes.
And also I had a very good friend when I was a kid named Brad who was an awesome guy. I thought, well, there's nothing wrong with being a Brad.
No.
So I tried it out. And I'm not sure if it really had an effect, but... I did. Well, I was Brad. For at least part of my life.
Interesting Brads in the world, so maybe not so bad. There's some nice stuff there. And depending on the popularity of a name or celebrity to a name, we seem to take on some of those elements. Family, I spent a lot of my life as Peter, and my grandmother's name is Hiltonen, so Hilton came in there. And with that change, it was shocking to people at first. Just one other thing, like in my 20s, I actually wanted to be Rudy for some reason.
Rudy?
Or tried. I was like, But it didn't fit, at the end of the day. But, somewhere in there, I just wanted to expand on my identifiers. I didn't want to be limited by that.
Yeah.
And, so it's like any name will fit, if we play with it. And at first it's awkward, just like a new set of clothes.
Or new glasses or new.
Yeah. And then we grow into these things sometimes. And other times we grow out of.
Yeah, very interesting.
So what are you looking forward to growing into next?
Oh boy, that's a big question.
Yeah.
I got to think about that right now.
I love putting you on the spot.
I think it's time. Maybe it's always time to shake things up a little bit. And in fact, I checked my horoscope this morning, and that's what it said.
Yes.
Things are going to shake up a little bit. So. I
think it is for all of us in the world. Finding ways of being now. And which is distinct from what we believed necessarily, which isn't what we believe isn't necessarily reality. It's only what we believe.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? I don't know if it's a little bit related to what we're saying, but just based on what we had happening on the show yesterday, we had Ty Kane on. But anyways, and we went out for lunch afterwards. But I wanted to ask about this because he had an interesting point, and I'm still trying to grapple with it. I'm just wondering what you think about it. When you go into a situation with expectations, the whole idea of expectations, right? And then you either have your expectations met or you don't, right?
Yes.
is the lesson there that you're learning to live with what the universe gives you, regardless of your expectations? Or if you don't get your expectations met, are you doing something wrong? You're not manifesting what you are expecting to manifest, or what you're consciously trying to manifest.
Yes.
Therefore, what you get would match your expectations. But if you're not doing that properly, you're going to get disappointed in the sense that your expectations aren't met.
The first thing that comes to mind is a great friend of mine, has often says, nothing's wrong. Everything has consequences. So, and also forgive everybody everything.
Yeah.
And not forget. Learn that this is a tendency or a way that a pattern. And in that, I've to respond to your question then is expectations. It's a trap, I think, for humans.
To have expectations?
Yeah. It's sort of like, oh, this is are we led by our expectations? Or, do we have expectations, or do we allow, and say, oh, what could this be like? Let's see this or something better. And that actually allows us to shape us, because I know I've experienced, the disappointments time and time and time again of my own expectations. Seeming to be met, and then all of a sudden, something totally changes. I'm like, how could this happen? And it's like blindsided.
Yeah.
And so I had an expectation, and even the experience, and trust that this is the momentum, and it's going this way. And then it all of a sudden takes a turn. And what it teaches me in terms of my expectations is, to really sort of look back and say, okay, just each moment, what's the miracle in the moment? And what can I do, to create or support, the next best moment, and be that best. So the expectations, I'm very mindful of being careful of them, to not let them have me.
Yeah. Because
it's a formula for, and have expectations of myself, and when I don't meet them, it hurts. If I have expectations of others and they're not met, it's hurt. Sometimes if they exceed the expectations, but again, it's not what I expect, that can hurt. So there's a way of actually, learning to love life and what is, and then say, okay, well, what can I do to make it better?
Yeah.
Or to be better in it. How does that fit for you?
That sounds right. Sounds like a balanced approach.
Yes, and you know how easy balance is, to be perfectly humanly balanced.
Yes.
You're doing a good job, Hugh.
Thank you. Well, because part of balance is being imbalanced some of the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We skated through that beautifully,
we
didn't we?
We did. Now it's time to let's talk about who we got coming on the show, because we've got a great show today. Phyllis Hiebert is coming on.
Yes.
And she was here not too long ago.
Yes.
What's she going to be talking about today?
Phyllis has done a lot of work, monumental work, and written a book about how to balance the ideas we have in our brains.
That's that balance thing again.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Indeed. So she'll be talking about her book.
Fantastic. And Johanna Kern is coming in.
Johanna Kern, yes, a filmmaker, and coming originally from Europe.
Yeah.
Multiple languages, just this talented woman. And has just completed the production of a film called Shadowlands.
Yes, I've seen the trailer.
Yes.
And we'll watch it hopefully again during the show today.
So another legacy maker, in the making.
I did some research on her on the internet too. I saw her running around Europe when she was 16 years old.
Isn't the internet wonderful that all these things now, we can actually get a sense of where people have been, who they are, where we might be going.
Maybe you shouldn't mention that to her. She'll think I'm stalking her.
It's all good.
Ross Beatty also coming in.
Ross, a wonderful entrepreneur, even though he's headed up some financial institutions, major Canadian financial institutions, and over 1,000 people in terms of investment brokers, he's constantly visionary in terms of what is the next area, what's the present area for us to work on evolving. And he's going to be bringing some of that today, specifically around solar energy.
Oh, cool.
and it should be really exciting.
Fantastic. But we're going to start the show off with Dan King. Dan King is here, and I know Dan a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think of Dan as sort of the balance master, and he looks at all of the things, or so many of the things that seem to be the extremes that are not easy, and helps people find their way through that. With what appear to be abilities, special abilities, what some call disabilities, and how for us to have greater humanity with each other and ourselves.
Great. Okay, so let's take a little break.
Okay.
And come back with Dan King, and we'll get into it. And Liquid Lunch is underway for Tuesday. Actually, it's November now. This is the first show of November. And we'll be right back as Liquid Lunch continues here on thatchannel.com.
You're still doing a great job.
Thank you, Hilton. Thank you.
3 more days you had to stay, but you never felt more far away. Out of sight and out of mind, my baby left me far behind. Now's my turn to make you see, ain't never getting no loving from me. Tell me truths, but make your mind what you wanna do. I never liked you anyway. You never felt more far away. My turn to make you see, ain't never getting no loving from me.
See, look, Hilton.
Okay.
You see what's going on over there?
I guess I've got a short man complex.
I don't know what it is.
I'm always wondering, I'm not tall enough.
That's why we got these adjustable chairs.
Yes, all right, here we go.
You got it. It's all about how it looks on TV.
There we go. Yes.
Okay, we're back on the show here, and we have Dan King joining us. Dan, you've been here before, right? Like on one of our shows way back when, maybe when it was radio.
Can't even remember. Oh, radio?
Yeah.
God, I don't remember.
Yeah, I can't believe. But anyway, here you are again. I know a little bit about you, but I know you're also involved in a whole bunch of different projects. And I don't know, where should we?
Exciting beginnings, and and as I've known, you've always been sort of an innovator and what's going to to really make a difference and help those that both need help and and just creating more resources and making life easier for many people. So the first one that I met you on years ago was on special needs and providing access and to information and rights, and maybe you can talk a bit about that, Dan. What's the company called, organization?
Group, yeah. Well, the first thing that the first probably the most important group that I'm involved with right now is the Party for People with Special Needs.
Yes.
And we created this because we were doing lobbying years ago. We were doing lobbying to try and improve the situation for families with a disability, and I know all about this because I've got 4 people with disabilities in my own family. That was a little shock. I was in denial for the longest time, and then suddenly it hit me. This is the situation. So you get lemons, you got to make lemonade. And
so it's not just an individual thing; it's the whole family. And is it the extended family and friends, or is it?
Well, the family's not that involved. The family is they're involved in that I help the family. But the point is, this just came from the realization that I have these 4 people with disabilities in my family. So the next stage was we were doing all sorts of lobbying to try and make better the financial programs government offers for people with disabilities. And one of the things they could not do was do long-term savings. And so we lobbied the government for 5 years, and they came out with the Registered Disability Savings Plan. And we go, great, it's a fabulous new program that enables people with a disability to engage in long-term savings with government help. And then we said, but that was a lot of work. So we said, we can't even raise money right now to do good things for the community. So we started a political party. A political party is the best way to raise money. And we started the Party for People with Special Needs. Well, because there's not enough, only 2% of Canadians donate to political parties in Canada. And if you look at how many people participate in our electoral system, like it's less than 50%, it's when I say almost a scandal, maybe it is a scandal that there's so little participation, because a lot of people just don't see there's anything for them in the current political system. But they want things. They want things to be different. The Occupy Wall Street shows you there's thousands of people out there who want things to be different. So we were looking at people with disabilities. Normally they don't participate in the electoral system. So we said, this is your chance. Now we've got a candidate for you. And so we ran 4 people with disabilities in the last election. I had a great time doing it.
Yeah. And they are?
Well, Danish Ahmed is the
Yes.
leader of the
Yes.
Party for People with Special Needs. He's blind, he has albinism,
Mm-hmm.
and a brilliant young fellow who I've known since he was 15. We basically did a lot of stuff together. We did a lot of high tech together and everything else.
Nice.
Now we're doing politics together, and I love it. I'm the backroom guy. I do make sure we're in compliance and that our filings are good.
Yes.
And he's the voice out there, reaching out to our community, and he's great using Facebook and all the social media.
I've met Danish a few times, and his tagline is "blind visionary," and I just love him for that, like the courage to do that.
Well, indeed, and we have a tagline for the Party for People with Special Needs as
Yes,
well.
which
Our
is?
tagline is, when you help people with disabilities, you're helping everybody. And that actually rolls through. If you get to reflect on that a little bit. But of course, you're helping the people with disabilities, and you're helping their family. But people with disabilities have tough lives, and frequently they really fall into distress. And when things break down, the government ultimately is left holding the bag. And so, if we can help people and have good policies that help people have strong, independent lives that are meaningful to them,
Yes.
then what will happen is they will have great lives, and they won't become needy or homeless or they'll stay on their meds if that's their problem. There's a whole bunch of things that will work. And when families work, the country works. And when the community works, the country works. And that means we're spending less money on emergency care, emergency intervention, that sort of thing. And who pays for the taxes and all that? Everybody does. Yeah. So when you help people with disabilities, you're helping everybody.
Yeah, including ourselves.
Including ourselves, And the other thing, too, is
put.
I know literally thousands of people with disabilities through my
Yes.
tax practice. And one of the things I find is that I know a lot of people who had really great lives, and they're just motoring along, making good money, professional, investing in houses and their business.
Yeah.
One car accident, and boom, their life was changed forever. One bang on the head, and they've got an acquired brain injury, and suddenly they've shifted into a totally different class, and they can't, their life, the previous life is gone. And we're really looking after ourselves too in the long term, because any one of us could just have a little bit of bad luck, and suddenly we're like a lot of people who were just like a lot of other people suddenly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we ran 4 people in the election.
Yes.
We had a gentleman called Reddy in Eglinton Lawrence. We ran him.
Yes.
We ran a fellow called Mr. Reddins in Ottawa South.
Yes.
Against the premier. Actually, no, we don't have any unpleasant things to say about the government. We just have a lot of good ideas that we want to share with the government.
Mm-hmm.
That's our role, is to put forward ideas that we hope they'll take up. And I ran against the wife of in Whitby, Oshawa, against the wife of the current Minister of Finance, who introduced the Registered Disability Savings Plan to Canada. And he has a couple of children of his own who have a disability.
Yes.
So he's walked our walk, Mm-hmm. And we think it's a great plan, but we have some suggestions to improve it. So we have lots to say to people at all levels, mm-hmm. certainly to the people who are in government.
One comment I have, and I'm sad that I haven't been cognizant of this enough,
Mm-hmm.
in that it's somewhat simpler, or it's been simplistic of me to recognize people with special needs that have obvious physical disabilities.
Right.
Where someone appears to be functional, have all their limbs and everything else, I forget too easily that they too may have special needs. Maybe everybody does to some extent, but where it compromises, one's functioning. And I'm reminded over and over again now to be more conscientious of this and more attentive, and find ways that I can, where I'm able to make a difference, to actually act on that and not just give lip service to it. So I'd like to talk later on more about that.
Well, certainly. I think one of the main things is that, I don't want to say it's denial, but one of the things that's happening that people aren't aware of, there's a lot of people with not visible disabilities, people with chronic fatigue syndrome, people with mental health problems who have good days and bad days. And
they may be very smart, like greatly intelligent.
Just depression itself. Depression itself is a
disability.
It's a chemical disability, and it's just the way our chemistry works. Some people, they just have a tendency to have depression. But the point is that it could happen to anybody, but there's more of it than we realize. We think that there's only 5% of people who have a disability here in Canada. But when you look at it a little closely and you start counting things like attention deficit disorder and other problems that can be very distressing to a person's life, there's actually a larger percentage. I don't want to say how high it is. Maybe it's 8%, maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 12%. We're not really sure. But there's more of it than we need. And that's why, more of it than we're aware of. And that's why focusing on creating a society that recognizes the special needs of all kinds of people, and looking at it from that perspective, that, this is not a big deal. We just need a little help. Some people get a little help and it makes a world of difference for them. Other people, they get a little help and they're able to look after themselves and have okay lives. Whatever it is, whatever the level is, it's the best approach for us to make as a community, to meet people's special needs so that we can, as many of us as possible, can have fulfilling lives.
Okay. Now, is the provincial party?
Yeah, it's a registered provincial party. And it's interesting because people have asked me to go federal as well. It's one of the things that we found out that is really a problem for us is how we can participate in our democracy. And you think, well, we want people to vote. Well, that's a start. But there's other ways. People can be campaign workers, people can talk to their friends, and people can donate money. And if a person with a disability, let's presume they're on ODSP, Ontario Disability Support Program, and majority of people are. If a person with a disability donates to a federal party, well, put it this way, if a Canadian donates $100 to a federal party, then he gets $75 back. So the net cost of that political donation is $25. If a person with a disability donates to a federal party, they get nothing back because they don't have taxes payable, so they don't get a refund of their taxes. It's a non-refundable tax credit.
Right.
And that means there's less incentive and less ability for people with disabilities to contribute to our national political scene. And yet they should have just as many rights as any Canadian to participate politically by making donations. Even if they're poor, they can still make a $50 or $100 donation and take a $25 loss because they're supporting somebody that they stand for. In Ontario, in 1999, they changed it. And today, if a poor person or a disabled person contributes to the Party for People with Special Needs, $100, they will get $75 back so that they can participate at the same level as any other working Ontarian can. And that is huge, in our opinion.
That's interesting.
What type of support does the Party for People with Special Needs have currently?
Well, just our own resources.
Yes.
I did make 2 weeks of phone calls last year, and I raised $10,000 just like that. People get it. People get our mission. They get how important it is to create a voice for people with disabilities. That's our mission. People get that that's important. And our goal in the next election is to run a candidate in every riding in Ontario, 107 or so candidates. And I don't see why we can't do it. People get what we're up to.
How exciting. Thank you.
Now, is there anything else you want to mention? Because I know you're busy, Dan. I think I ran into you originally in the context of LETs or Toronto dollar, alternative currencies.
Oh,
and
that's
that
right.
Sort of
Yeah,
thing.
we were big on that. Well, yeah, I mean, basically I have 4 additional movements that I'm involved with, but I
talk
don't know how
about
much
them briefly.
airtime we've got, but if you've got...
We got a couple of minutes. Let's touch on them briefly.
Well, okay, the next group we started, in this election, I did something which has not been done in Ontario before, and I wanted to support more than one political party. And this is something that Elections Ontario really couldn't handle. They didn't understand how you could support more than one political party. But the fact is in Ontario is we think that people in Ontario want to be able to support more than one political party at the same time. The Conservatives have been out there on one hand, on the right, and the NDP and the Liberals have been on the left. And people have said, why don't the NDP and the Liberals team up even in just in some ridings? Why can't we have both parties supporting a candidate in some riding? Well, nobody at Elections Ontario can really handle that vision. But I wanted to support 2 parties in those elections. So I supported the Party for People with Special Needs and the Party for Human Rights in Ontario, which is another group that we started. And I don't see any conflict in my vision between people with disabilities, supporting people with special needs, and supporting people who are in need of human rights. You know, those are 2 conversations. In some ways, they're very similar.
What is the mandate for the Party for...
Well, Party for Human Rights' its mandate is to promote dialogue, to educate people on our human rights, to educate people in the political sense, that's to say.
Yes,
okay?
all right.
And to basically show Ontarians that by improving human rights in Ontario, there are many ways that all of our society will work better. For example, if we had a right to housing, if we said that it is our vision in a country like Canada, where it's cold and dangerous to be outdoors, that we have one of our human rights is to have a safe and warm place, which you can call home, even if it's modest and simple.
Yeah.
If we set that up as a human rights, then we would instantly, more or less, solve our homelessness problem, which is a very costly program for Canadians. Homelessness is an unhealthy lifestyle, and living on the streets is unhealthy. And Canadians, by consensus, have decided that we must look after the health care for every Canadian. That's something we've decided different from the United States.
Yes.
Well, if we're having all these people living extremely unhealthy lifestyles, living on the streets, that's going to cost us money.
Yeah.
And it's cheaper for Canadians to basically reach an agreement that not only are you going to have a guarantee of health care in Ontario, but you're going to have a guarantee of a safe and warm place to live. Simple, but safe, you know. That it's better, it's certainly cheaper for us, and it's better because when we recognize it as a human right, then it's better for all of us.
True. I'm just curious why we don't do that already, because when I was a kid, there didn't seem to be a homeless problem.
That's right.
And there seems to be now. And I really don't see any of the governments, provincial, federal, saying we're going to do something about this problem, and we're all dealing with it. Whether, a lot of people are like one paycheck away from living on the street.
200,000 people in Ontario, one paycheck away.
And the people that are living on the street, it's really rough for those people, and everybody else has to deal with the problem, encountering homeless people as they go about their lives.
That's right. I just attended a conference on the ONPHA conference, Ontario Nonprofit Housing Association conference, which deals heavily with the homelessness problem. And when I was a child, I'm dating myself too, I didn't see a big homeless problem either. But it happened in the 80s when they basically shut down our mental health institutions and basically said, you're going to go in the community. We got the drugs and the treatments now so people can be safe in the community. And that was the plan. And then people would live in the community and get their treatment in the community. And it's also better in terms of personal freedom and personal choice.
And cheaper. For the government. I'm just saying.
It's
I
cheaper,
know that's
except
not a
it ended
reason.
up more expensive.
Yeah, of
It ended
course.
up more expensive because in York Region, where I have the statistics, something like 80% of the police calls are calls which have a mental health component in them. And when they deregister guns, when they get rid of the gun registry, the police will not know whether those people have guns in their homes as well. So it'll be dangerous for police, and that's very expensive, not to say unhumanitarian. So the point is, we need to have a better system for healing the lives of these people. And anyway, it happened in the 80s, and then if you do a survey of people who are on the street, living on the street today, 66% of them have a psychiatric problem of one type or another, often depression or schizophrenia, what have you. 45% have a cognitive impairment, which is something that you can actually measure as a serious health problem of one type or another. And of course, there's a high amount of substance abuse as well, but that's simply a symptom of a general problem. So when you see homelessness, what it really is an offshoot of our mental health problem. And lots of people have mental health problems, and lots of people go in and out of them in their lives. There's no reason why it has to wreck someone's life and become homeless. It should be a stage which requires treatment, and then people carry on with their lives. Having people become permanently homeless is not a solution to any problem.
Yeah. I think we really need to, as a society, we really need to come to grips with this problem and solve it once and for all, because it's getting worse.
Yeah.
And all I see is governments running around doing other things, like negotiating trade agreements with other countries. Let's look after our domestic policy.
But as citizens, we're all culpable and accountable.
That's right. Well, yeah, but it's a human right.
Yeah.
And let's just look at it as a human right. And again, it'll affect all of us. You know, I mean, the fact is, all of us are at some risk at some time of becoming homeless. If we have a bad episode in our life. I know many people who just went along really well in their lives, and then something happened and changed their life, so that, you know, having that extra safety net would have been helpful in healing their lives.
Yeah.
So that's what the Party for Human Rights stands for in just one area.
Yeah.
And they have their own committee, so I'm not really authorized to speak for them. My goal is to empower that party, do the backroom, do the compliance.
So it's partyforhumanrights.org or CA?
You know what? It doesn't even have a website yet, but it is registered with Elections Ontario. It's official.
Aren't you concerned about splitting the vote between the special needs people and the human rights people?
So let's talk about that. A huge issue that people have been talking about for a long time. And I think what people need to know is how to vote, okay? Yeah. The first thing you need to do is you need to go out and you pick the candidate that's most attractive to you, okay? Yeah. Then you take that option and you throw it in the garbage, all right? And then you go and you look, that's right, and then you go and you look at the other candidates and say, who was a candidate that you really don't want? In this case, it would be Rob Ford. Who's the candidate I really don't want, you know? And then I would say, which candidate is most likely to defeat that candidate, you know? And then that's where I would place my vote. And if it happens to be the one I originally picked, I can take him out of the garbage and put it in. Yeah. But I really have to throw him out, because I have to just separate my heart from my brain here on this. I mean, that's the vote for my heart, and I have to vote for my brain. People, this should be an instruction book, you know, for Elections Ontario. This is how you vote. All right.
That's a great idea.
So if people want to, so in other words, I don't mind people voting strategically at all. In fact, I actually encourage strategic voting until we fix our system, our voting system. But in the meantime, if you feel guilty because you haven't supported the Party for People with Special Needs, and you really are a stand for a community that works for everybody, that's okay. Vote for the candidate who's going to defeat the one that you really don't want, and you can contribute dollars to us. We'll take your dollars instead.
I like your thinking.
And the nice part is, in Ontario, even if you're poor, you can donate your dollars and know you're going to get your political tax refund. Thank you to Ontario for setting that up. I think we're the first in Canada.
Yeah. Well, you've got me motivated to take action.
I think it's great. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So that's about all the time we have for today, Dan. We'll have to get you back and talk about some of the other projects. But again, let's give out those websites. Well, for the Party for People with Special Needs, the website is?
ppsn.on.ca. ppsn.on.ca. And
the other party?
That's it. That's
no
all
website
ones
for now.
That's all ones we have for now.
All right. Great.
Thank you very much.
Very okay, Dan. Great to have you back. Great to have this chat.
All right, excellent.
Looking forward to the next.
Yeah, so let's take a little break, and we're going to come back with Phyllis Hiebert right after this and talk about that brain thing.
Yes, the secrets of the brain.
Yeah.
Oh, secrets, such fun.
Yes, we'll be right back.
My troubled mind is falling apart. I'll get back to love someday. Out of time and out of tune, I'll get it right. I just hope it's someday soon. I'll get back to love someday. Every day gets in the way. Oh, how I wish you put up with me and stay. I'll get back to love someday. I know it's right to call every night, but it's too late to call my saving grace. I'll get back to love someday.
And we are back on Liquid Lunch, and we've got Phyllis Hiebert here. And Phyllis, it's great to have you back on the show.
Welcome back, Phyllis.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
But who would have known, based on our last discussion, that you would be here today to talk about secrets from the brain?
You know,
Secrets from the brain. There it is.
Whose brain?
well, everyone's brain, really.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, you might say, I know last time I was here, I was talking about my company, ExecuSuite. You may say that I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, or just incredibly multi-talented.
A Renaissance woman.
I am a Renaissance woman.
I like incredibly multi-talented. That's great. So tell us about the talents and skills, from, sharpen your thinking, power your performance, and here you've got, the big brain, the thinker.
Sitting on the thinker, yes.
Right.
Well, actually, what we all have, and the last guest on was talking about, cognitive ability.
Yes.
And we have something in the prefrontal cortex of the brain known as executive cognitive function.
Prefrontal cortex, where is that?
Well, it's kind of,
There? That's where executive is?
It's before the front.
yeah, it's prefrontal. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's right by the cortex.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And you don't need to know that. I'm not a,
Brain surgeon.
no. I'm an organizational development person.
Okay.
But the interesting thing is that these 7 executive cognitive functions, or as we've trademarked them as brain smarts, they're really the control panel of behavior. And much like an orchestra with different instruments, they all have to be functioning in unison in order for you to be able to perform optimally in your work and in your relationships.
Really?
When there's a gap, I hate to use that word deficits, but when there's a shortfall in one, it compromises the entire arena of performance.
Okay, that's really interesting. So what are these 7 areas? Let's do a little checklist right now.
You want me to list them?
Yeah, I want to, yeah.
They're right here.
Well, they're right
Oh,
there.
wait a second.
Focus.
Let's
Focus.
See. Focus. See?
Focus, plan,
Initiate, plan, organize, shift, monitor, and regulate.
Yes.
So, do these work as a system as a whole? And you said that if any one of them is low functioning, that it creates compromise, and lower overall performance.
Absolutely. It's a very complex interplay between the different brain smarts. And, when one is performing suboptimally, it just is going to throw everything off kilter. Much like if you, in an orchestra, if you had one instrument out of tune, imagine the impact on the performance.
Well, for instance, I have plans, and I organize to implement the plans. Plan my work my plan.
Yep.
And then distraction comes, and I shift, but then I'm lost.
Okay. Well, that sounds to me, and I'm not really, you've given me really just a sound bite.
Yeah.
But that sounds to me more of an issue with focus as opposed to plan. Because with focus really relates to your ability to really remain concentrated on whatever task you're engaged in and not be distracted by many distractions. Now, some people, anything can distract them. They're doing this, then they get a phone call, then they say, oh my God, I should have replied to that email, and the day is gone, and where's the plan? So what is really interesting about the brain smarts, and there are cognitive and psychological testing that can be done, but they don't actually lend themselves very well to that kind of testing, because these are the kinds of behaviors that are observed in behavior. So they don't really lend themselves well to paper and pencil testing. They lend themselves really well to self-observation, as well as observation of the people that interact with you. And so in the book, under each one of them, we actually have a checklist for symptoms that might indicate, and it's under, does this sound like you? As well as tips and strategies for steps that you can take to actually work on in any particular shortfalls.
It's interesting. We talked about briefly with our last guest, Dan King.
Dan, yes.
Talking about special needs that, ADHD, attention, whatever.
Attention deficit disorder,
yeah. Is, seems like more and more people are either being diagnosed or diagnosing themselves with it, taking medication for it. And there's people going around advocating that people should get medication for this stuff. Is this, it sounds like that is related certainly to at least one of the 7 brain smarts that you've identified. Is that a smart strategy? Is to medicate to address some of these things? Okay,
let me give you my layperson's answer on that. I'm not a neuropsychologist. I'm not a special need. I don't have a background in special needs. I do, however, have a twin sister who has a master's degree in learning disabilities and knows an enormous amount about this field, and I actually consulted with her and co-authored the book with a neuropsychologist. To quote my sister, what she has said is, everyone with ADHD has executive cognitive function impairment across the blanket. Now, I know that she is a strong proponent of medication in certain situations and in certain cases. It's not a blanket solution. So, she'd probably be a great person to have on the phone. From my perspective, and what this book is addressing is really the lay person, the people who maybe have never had a diagnosis of ADHD, or it's on a continuum, or it's just sort of a mild impairment, because we're really so new to this kinds of diagnosis. Certainly when I was in school, it wasn't even a word. And there are people out there working who have impairments and they're not being addressed. The book is full of true stories, case studies of my 25 years in the corporate world. Once I became aware of this and acquired the knowledge, I realized that in every single case where I had a performance issue where I couldn't deal with it, despite being an awesome coach, it was always related to executive cognitive function. Always.
So it sounds like that seems sensible, that every case needs to be looked at as individually, and that maybe medication is the right strategy in some circumstances.
In some circumstances, it's the only strategy, or it's the first strategy. So that you then have, and hopefully, you're dealing at a child level, a child that you can now start to engage some of the strategies with.
Mm-hmm.
So that would fall under sort of regulate and testing different, testing different ways of regulating.
Well, actually, regulate as an executive cognitive function, it's really about the ability to engage in emotional control, to regulate your responses. So, for example, if I can take this to the work world or even your personal world, you may say something that really ticks me off. And a person who has a high degree of regulation would take that in and respond appropriately for the time and circumstance. So, for example, if you said something right now that ticked me off,
yes,
a sign of very poor emotional regulation would be for me to get up, throw my mic out, throw over the chair, swear at you, and walk out of the door.
Yes.
That would be an indication of very poor emotional regulation. An indication of good emotional regulation might be to say something like, well, that's very interesting. And just leave it at that.
Yes. And then begin plotting your revenge. Right?
Well, if you were that kind of a person, not that I am. No.
No. Of course, I'm just kidding, Phyllis. So what do you do then? If you go, you read the book and you find out you may be impaired in one or more, or some combination of these different areas, like what are some of the other strategies that people can use?
Well, the strategies are really, really unique to whatever the executive cognitive function impairment is. And there's a whole, list of things that you can use for, each and every one of them.
So depending on your situation, you've got some strategies.
Yeah, depending on your situation.
Unique makeup, yeah.
Yeah, your unique makeup. Another one is shift, which is really the ability to be flexible, go with the flow, change course of action as required. Now, somebody that has a very poor ability in that, they're these like my way or the highway. Like, no, this is the plan, this is the way we're doing it, just rigid. And those are often our career casualties in the corporate world. They just can't bend with the times or go with the flow. Am I striking a nerve here?
Of course not, Phyllis.
Okay. Well, I think, the challenge that I would have for you is to read the book and self-identify.
Uh-huh.
And so far, I have not yet met anybody that hasn't seen themselves in something. Obviously I wrote the book, so I know where my particular impairments are.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how did you come to write?
Can you discuss them, or are you happy to do that? Or
I'm absolutely happy to do that. Actually, there is an 8th executive cognitive function. It's called working memory.
That's for the next book, right?
No, it's actually, there's not a whole lot you can do with working memory, and our memory declines with age, and so we chose to restrict it to these. No, my particular ones, and I'm actually very high functioning on all executive cognitive function.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have some challenges with emotional regulation, and a bit of a hair trigger temper at times, And I'm adopting my own strategies and learning to modify my behavior.
Sweetness.
It is sweet.
Congrats.
Thank you. So I'm sorry, what was your other question?
Well, first, how did you come to write the book? Because that's it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not really your background. And you've already mentioned that you
Yeah.
wrote it with
A PhD neuropsychologist, yes.
and that's more up their alley. But
Yes.
you know what?
And she also happens to be your twin sister, is that correct?
No.
them-
This is Dr. Lori Saxby.
Okay.
But I met her. My twin sister is an educational consultant
Okay,
with
got
a
you.
master's in learning disability. So I've sort of been surrounded by this my whole life. The way that it happened is the way that, for me, most things in life happen, which is with synchronistic precision. And I happened to be at my sister's Christmas party, met this woman, and we started talking. In fact, we talked for 3 hours. And she told me what she did, and I started talking about some of the challenges that I'd had as an organizational development consultant with performance and as a manager. And to this day, one or the other of us said, we should write a book. We can't remember who said it. But 3 weeks later, we
Must have
sat
been a good
down at her kitchen table with a blank sheet of paper, and we started drafting the book.
Fantastic. How long did it take you?
3 years.
3 years.
It's not even that long of a book.
I know. You know what? 3 years from when we met to when it actually got on the shelves at Chapters and Amazon. Now, subsequent to that, last year I actually went to a seminar called How to Write a Book in 2 Weeks, because I want to write another book, but I don't want to take another 3 years. And this was Andrew Skelly, and what he said gave me the great bit of advice. He said 80% of people who buy books never read them. It doesn't have to be good, it just has to be done. So my next book, I'm thinking it'll take me about a month.
As long as the cover is good, that's the most important thing.
Well, and you know, actually my nephew designed the cover. It was my idea, having the thinker with the superimposed techie brain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my little nephew designed it.
See, now, so who really should, like, there's a lot of self-help books, there's a lot of books about brain,
I know,
cognitive
yeah,
stuff.
yes.
You know, like, who should read this book? Why this book?
Okay, why this book? You know, here's where I think, you know, why this book? Because so much of it is that's out there, it's really not intended for a lay audience. Or there's nothing, you know, you read it, you get the information, but it's not practical. There's nothing that you can take and apply to your own situation. Where I think, and you know, and I'll just give you an example. My sister works with psychologists, and a psychologist came into work one day and said, "You should read this book I found. It's incredibly practical. It's great." And my sister said, "Turn it over," because my sister wrote it. So I think it would be great for psychologists, EAP consultants. You know, a lot of people that lose their jobs, they get packages for resume writing and interviewing tips, but they're never addressing perhaps the core reasons of why they're losing their job. And so this is actually, you know, you don't need this, you know, it doesn't matter if you have the suit, the resume, or the interview. If you don't have the performance, nothing's going to change. So I think this is something that, you know, it's simple. Anybody can read it, take a hold of it, and apply it to their own life.
Anybody.
Anybody, even you.
Even me.
Even you. Yes, I think you could.
I'm interested in finding out what secrets I've got in this brain here.
I think you would be very, very.
What might I be blind to?
Here's what the secrets will reveal.
Yes.
Deficits in some of these areas.
Yes, and a path to reconciling
So
them.
to rectify it.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
Phyllis, do you think people are getting worse in terms of, like, do you think maybe in the past people in general were doing better on these 7 executive functions, or you know, are we getting worse? Are we getting mentally more unwell somehow? Do you think?
You know, I'm not sure that it's about that, because I think what it is really, in my opinion, is that we're becoming more aware. You know, we have a work world that's becoming increasingly complex, and not just increasingly complex, very technological, and that requires a very competitive, that we're functioning at very high levels. You know, we're not on the farm. We're not, this is fine for some jobs, but in this increasingly high-tech world, people just have to be firing on all cylinders cognitively.
Well, and plus, and we're not just that we're functioning at a high level if and when we're working, but it seems to me more and more people are under a lot of stress. Maybe they lost their jobs and they don't, there's economic pressure, money pressure on everybody, and that's tough to deal with.
Absolutely.
But there's more people as well, like from a quarter century ago, even 10 years ago, there are hundreds of millions of more people on the planet.
That's a whole
so
other
there's
level
a lot
of stress.
more, so much more traffic congestion, human congestion, and part of humanity is having some confusion. How do we get clear? And doing that individually is one task, and which you're addressing here, and also doing it collectively within teams or our groups.
Because we are more interdependent now than ever before. 200 years ago, most of us living on the farm, and we had to grow our own food and everything, build our own houses, and we could get along with little interaction with other people. Now we have to do that too.
Well, I think we've always had interaction. In fact, probably more so than now. Now what passes for interaction is texting. And that's not really human interaction at all, is it?
No. It's just noise, for the most part. Sometimes there's maybe intrinsic, but not true, contributory value.
I feel like there's so much of an opportunity for miscommunication, especially through texting.
Yeah.
Words,
misinterpretation.
It's huge. I think it's even worse than email, because in email, at least in texting, there's these words that mean things, and it's just so open to misinterpretation.
Yeah.
I think all texting should be abolished except for logistical purposes.
But it's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen.
It's just going to keep on going, and then there'll be something else.
What was the major thing you learned by writing Secrets of the Brain? What are some of the major things you learned?
What I learned is that could have saved myself, not just myself, 25 years of corporate suffering by trying the conventional tactics to improve performance.
Yes.
But I think the big thing that I learned is all the people that are still out there that are suffering because maybe they don't have problems at a clinical level, or they've never been diagnosed, and they've just been going through life this way. I remember a particular case where I actually had to fire an employee.
Yes.
Who was my best friend, and reported to me.
It's tough.
And it was just at the point where I was ripping my hair out. She is, in fact, one of the case studies in the book.
Yes.
I lost the employee. I lost the friendship. Had I been armed with the knowledge and the information that I have now,
yes,
that would never, ever have had to have happened.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How encouraging.
Yeah. So I think if nothing else, this is a great book for people to pick up. Yeah. And use for themselves.
So where can they pick up Secrets from the Brain?
Chapters, Amazon, online, or from me. I sell it directly off my website.
Which is?
It's catalysisconsultinggroup.com.
Oh, spell that, please.
I know, it's a toughie. Catalysis.
Yes.
CATALYSIS.
Yes.
And then consulting group. And it's all one big, huge, long word.
Okay, so you make the complex simple.
I do. Well, I make the simple complex. But actually in the book, I make the complex very, very simple.
Excellent, excellent. And in organizations, you were mentioning some of the EAP organizations.
Yes.
It seems to me like this would be an ideal part of every severance package.
This absolutely.
Particularly if it's performance based.
Absolutely. Yeah. Forget the resume writing. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yes.
But this is what people need to know: is where are my shortfalls?
Okay. It seems though, here's the book. People learn in different ways. Some, visually and reading. Others interacting. Are you doing anything else with this, like putting on seminars or?
Yes, I have a seminar developed, and typically what I like to do is to go in with the leadership team and explain the principles of the book and how I'll be working with their employees.
Yes.
And perhaps themselves or their families or whatever. And then I do workshops.
Is that like a 40-minute or 4-hour
no.
or 4-day?
It's typically 1 to 2 day workshop.
Yes.
And so people self-identify, and then there's a lot of exercises that they use, and they do the exercises, and at the end of it, they're actually armed with a plan that they can take and use with themselves. I also do one-on-one coaching.
Lovely.
Can someone figure it all out if they just read the book?
Sure.
If they have the right cognitive stuff going on, right?
Absolutely. It's written at a grade 8 level.
Grade 8.
Like most books.
Fabulous. Secrets from the Brain. And where can people get this? Get their hands on it. You already did that?
Yes.
I knew that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Memory I can't do anything about, though, Phyllis,
Yeah.
can I?
Not a whole
It's all
lot.
over.
It's becoming apparent. So, can I take it that you'll be reading the book?
Yeah,
Fantastic.
because it's not so thick,
No.
you know, and that's okay. Thinner is better sometimes, right? It's distilled.
Yeah. It's a real easy read, and the only thing that I would suggest when you read it with the view to, does this sound like me?
Okay. All right. Well, this is fabulous. So, did you give out the website already, Hilton?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
The
all
company is Catalysis.
right. Catalysis.
Yes.
Nice. You made that word up, didn't you?
I did, but actually, it's a real word.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Which means?
It's actually a scientific term, and it's about something, typically a chemical or whatever, that is introduced and produces a catalytic effect or a change.
Oh, okay.
And that's what I'm all about, is change.
Right. Okay, good. Well, this was great. I'm really looking forward to reading the book. Thanks a lot for doing this.
As am I.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay, well, the show continues here, Hilton. Johanna's here now, and
Perfect.
we're going to see the trailer from Shadowlands. Is it The Shadowlands?
Shadowlands.
Shadowlands, the trailer.
Yes.
So let's watch this, and we're going to come back and chat with Johanna right after this.
Perfect.
On Liquid Lunch. That's it.
So it shall be. So it shall be soon. The chaos and all the suffering in our land shall stop.
So, they want to revolt.
Our legend says that only a brother who comes with his sister from a foreign land can change the order of things in Attic Town.
Frank, will you be quiet? Will you listen to me? What is it? Where are we? Where's the door?
And remember, you mustn't stay out for the night. It's very dangerous. Welcome to Attic Town.
Do you think anyone followed you here?
No. I don't think so.
Do you want me to slit your throat?
It takes a lot of training and trust. But at the end, you have tremendous powers. You can do what you want.
Should we go in?
I am only your shadow.
I'm only your shadow. Get a face. Maybe it'll help your brain.
Your brother is the only one who can save Attic Town. But first, you must save him from the trap he's fallen into.
If it's your way, both of you.
We're back here after the trailer from Shadowland,
The legend.
The Legend, and we're here with the filmmaker, and Johanna Kern. And Johanna, so I mean, I saw some of your other stuff you were doing. You actually did you direct that as well?
Yes.
And you wrote it?
Yes.
And I don't know what else, produced everything,
yes,
right?
yes.
So well, that's awesome. I mean, I no. I don't know where to start, but I get the impression that that this is kind of a story that's been with you for a long time. That it's like you really have been working a long time to get this story out there. Is that?
Oh yes,
accurate?
it is true. Actually, this is the first feature film of series of 4 features, and the next one is in the development stages. The script has been written. They're not sequels, they're just parts of the entire story of Shadowland. Shadowland the Legend has been first conceptualized, let's put it this way, in 2001. And it was based on my musical stage play called Frank, Big Baba and 40 Thieves.
Sorry, what?
Say that again.
Frank, Big Baba and 40 Thieves. There were about 300 performances on stage in that musical, and over 200 of them were actually dancers. The shadows were played by dancers on the stage, and they are played by martial artists in the movie.
Wow, that's pretty.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, that's a huge musical to be
yes,
performing with 200.
It was done in Mississauga, and a lot of the actors were actually students of my acting school, which then was running in Mississauga, and we had over 100 students each semester. It was quite a nice adventure.
Where did you find a stage big enough to put on?
Oh, they are all over the place. You just need to look for them.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
All right. Now, I had the chance to go over the kind of the synopsis of the story here, and it almost sounds like it's got, there's elements of conspiracy and elite powers and. Yes.
Well, Shadowland can happen everywhere, and it's actually happening everywhere. We all experience it on many levels. We all have either personal shadows or global shadows, or you name it. The dark side of our nature is the most beautiful side to explore.
The most beautiful side.
To explore.
To explore.
Yes.
And unify, perhaps, and to actually bring light to.
Understanding. Well, I'm not here to save the world, to be honest with you. I think the world is doing great, but I think as a filmmaker, I have the responsibility to focus on topics that are exciting to me, and shadows are definitely.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about the making of the film. You just finished it, right?
Yes, last month.
And I saw a clip that you sent me.
The trailer. Oh.
Another one.
Okay,
maybe it was from City TV or something where.
It was for City TV.
And you were at U of T, it looked like, and shadows were coming out of the windows, and you were talking about making the film.
Well, we had a lot of publicity during shooting of the film, which was several years ago, actually. It took several years to complete it because it is a very unusual production for Canada. There haven't been, and still there are none, funds or support for fantasy films. This is not a popular genre.
In Canada?
In Canada, among the government financiers. So the film was financed completely privately, and it took a long time to pull it off because it is a very big production, and the visual effects are very substantial. About 30% of the movie is actually consists of visual effects. We had I think over 300 people performing in the movie. Again, I like big shows. I'm sorry, I just like big shows.
So Johanna, the fantasy genre, sci-fi genre, that would include, Star Wars, Harry Potter.
Yes, that's
so
the genre.
And that's a huge.
It's a huge genre. It's actually the most popular genre in the world of all times. I think it's 18 or 19. I think it's 19 most popular films of all times, and making the most money are in fantasy, family, or science fiction genre. And yet the government funds in Canada do not consider commercial meaning popular, entertaining, and broadly viewed by audiences films to be eligible for any investment from government. So therefore we had to look for private investors to pull off the movie. Yes.
Now, is this the first film that you've made?
Oh, no. No, I produced 2 features before. They were rather small Canadian features. This is my first feature movie as a director, but I directed, produced, written several short films. They being in international festival circuits, and some of them did very well, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's just my first feature as a director, but
right.
That's
now,
all.
how did you find that
How did
role
I find
of being a director?
Well, as I said, I
first
directed
time.
before. You mean feature film director?
Yeah.
The first time feature film director. Well, I've had a lot of experience with short films and other projects, numerous other projects. So I don't know. It was the same. Only, let's say, don't laugh at me, but it was just longer.
Mm-hmm.
Just being longer on the set for a project. That's all. Fascinating adventure. I can't wait to make more of the series and other features as well. I love making films, and I'm here to share with you what we all can pull together, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you don't, send me an email and we'll talk about it.
Beautiful. How do you feel you grew through as a result of being a director and producing Shadowlands?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. Given that the film took several years to complete, it was an incredible adventure to live in a country that has no immediate or available funds for this genre, because Canadian, as I said, government funds are sponsoring just the art cinema, not the commercial one. I had to come up with all sorts of ideas how to bring on board top professionals to complete the post-production, and that included a very famous music composer and the leader of a rock band in Europe, sort of equivalent of Rolling Stones, only they are based in Eastern Europe, over 250 hit songs, etc. And we have a music score of the length of 80 minutes, ready to be released later on. We had wonderful company coming on board for visual effects and mastering and online editing optics, Digital Pictures of Toronto. Absolutely wonderful cameraman and cinematographer Mitchell Zainali, who worked for Sony, for Warner Brothers before. We just managed to get on board the top professionals at a not so high budget, let's say, and dare I say we've done the impossible. I used to run a film festival for science fiction and fantasy in Toronto for a few years, and it's sort of under development, changing its format now. Hopefully in a year we will bring it back to the public in a little bit different format, which I cannot reveal. So I've seen thousands of fantasy and science fiction films from all over the world made on low budgets, and dare I say I've never seen a production like this. It is sort of like in between independent films of that genre and the big studio films, somewhere in the middle road. Yes, we've pulled out the impossible, and I'm very proud of all of you who worked on the film. That'll be like over 500 people, including the actors and crew and post-production. I'm very, very proud of you. Yes, we done it.
500, that's great.
Now, so we're really looking forward to seeing the film, but is this your genre, would you say?
Yes, it's my main genre, yes. I love the genre. I've been in this genre for a long time, and although my short films were not all of them were in that genre, I love drama too, but this is my main genre. It is a genre that lets people open the minds, and the impossible is possible, and we can dream through that genre. We can fulfill ourselves by identifying with the characters on the screen, and the genre basically tells us more about ourselves and life than other genres, because there is no stop being put, there is no red flag. In this genre we can tell anything we want, because it's all fantasy.
Right, but when you look at the genre of sci-fi,
yes,
and
I love it too. I have a script for sci-fi that's ready to go, by the way, and I want to do it too.
Well, because there is a little bit of a, it's hard to say where the sci-fi genre and the fantasy genre separate, right? Oh,
it's actually yes, it's not so easy to say, and if I may explain. They sort of come from the same root. However, the sci-fi genre focuses more on the technology and the technology resolves the issues, and the merit of the film is the resolution of whatever conflict and plot comes through the technology. While in fantasy it is more of a magic, more of the spiritual, more of the supernatural. Although those two genres very often share the supernatural, and then it's very difficult to tell where they fall into which category. So they sort of blend in many levels. True, you're right. Yeah.
It's interesting that you should say that, because if for sci-fi it's technology that's sort of the
driving power, and and for fantasy it's the impossible happens on its own. There's no technology involved.
Right.
So you have a lot of subgenres in fantasy. That'll be the sword, that'll be the supernatural, that'll be the magic, etc. Yes. Yes.
Well, one thing I've noticed with sci-fi, and maybe this question's not really applicable.
No, it is. Yeah, I'm fascinated with both genres, and I intend to produce many more movies in both genres. So.
It seems to me that in sci-fi and or slash fantasy, when it first came out as a genre, or when it was in its heyday, because I think sci-fi has really declined, in the sense that there was a heyday, I think probably in the 50s, 60s, where this technological view of the world was very optimistic.
Yes.
And that's kind of it's almost like sci-fi doesn't know what to say anymore. It doesn't know. It's hard.
Ooh, yes. Do you remember Matrix?
Yeah.
They didn't know what to say. Yes, because let's say the technology and the science got separated from philosophy many centuries ago, and many centuries ago they used to be one. It was just one knowledge called philosophy, and that included science. Ever since that was dissociated from the human being, from human powers, from human mind, which is the most powerful thing there is, the consciousness, then technology on its own can go only thus far. However, nowadays there's a lot of discoveries and a lot of research that has been conducted for years, and now scientists are coming to a similar conclusion as might be found in some fantasy films, which is mind reading, telepathy. It's been now scientifically proven as just a normal human being ability that we can develop. There are some articles that could be researched on the internet. We can see a quantum levitation recently. There is a new technology, nanotechnology, which teaches us about how in about 20 years our world will be completely different. And so the science is catching up now. It's sort of coming back to the root, to the philosophy, which philosophy is not just fantasizing and logicking and having a point of view on life and our experience here. So philosophy is about a deeper understanding of our role in our life with the others within the universe, and how far we can go and what we can develop. So I encourage everyone to look for the recent news in nanotechnology and science, and you find a lot to include in the sci-fi movies if you want to produce or make one. I used to actually produce and I developed the show, latest news from nanotechnology and medicine and science, and that was a weekly show. We had a half-an-hour show, and oh boy, what I've learned, what is possible. That's unbelievable. It's just we need to bring together technology and science with understanding of human power and capacity and mind, and then we're back on track.
But are we ever going to do that? I mean, I'm just thinking.
Oh, I believe we are.
You think? Like the ethical approach to decisions around technology?
Hey, that is something else. But we all responsible for ourselves, for our individual life, and in context of being a human race, if we start noticing that we all sort of one as a human race, and at the same time we individually will take responsibility for ourselves, then, and I think we're on its way. I'm very optimistic about it.
Really?
Especially the younger generation. Of course, they watch a lot of fantasy films, and they're very well educated.
And all the fantasy films really address all of our hopes and our fears.
They do.
Don't they?
They
and,
do.
And
they
in
do.
Shadowlands, it's looking at shadows.
Yes.
Things that we're not accustomed to or maybe afraid to look at.
Yes. yes.
And work through. So what's the journey of Shadowlands in a nutshell for us?
Okay, the feature. All right. So as I said, it took several years to complete the post-production. The film is completed now. It's ready for distribution. We are beginning to get some recognition and interest from distributors right now. It might take a while, and definitely we will go with the distribution company that can do the most for the film. And so everybody is welcome to contact me at After Rain Films. You can go to our website, www.shadowlandthelegend.com, see our trailer on YouTube, and we can talk, and I'll give you more details, because on camera right now, I'm not supposed to reveal too much.
Yeah, because the film's brand new. I'm just going to hold this up. That's the DVD case. And do we have the poster of the, there's a poster, right?
Yes, we should have it here.
There we go. That looks great. And
coming to a distribution outlet near you in the very near future.
Yes, yes.
Now, are we going to get I don't know if you want to hear this question, but are we going to get a chance to see it in a theater?
Hopefully. It depends on the country. Each country has a different demands on how they can promote the film. Theatrical distribution comes with a lot of money for the promotion. It goes into millions. So not each country will be capable to pull it off. There are no huge stars in the movie, though in the genre, the fantasy family genre, we really don't need huge stars. And also, films usually make more money on DVDs. And yeah, so we'll see. Hopefully it'll be in theaters, because the experience of a film on a huge screen in an intimacy of the dark room, sharing it with other people is incompatible with any other experience.
You need the popcorn and the golden topping.
Yes, so I only hope that we'll see that
and brace yourself for the theater
in theaters in Canada. But we'll see what happens. It's an interesting journey, and whatever happens, it's going to be great. And I wish you a very good experience with it. And I encourage you all to follow your dreams, because it always pays off this way or another. When you follow your dreams, you're fulfilling your life. And that makes you even happier than you were before.
That's awesome.
Thank you for following your dreams.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Manifesting.
Thank you. You guys are awesome. Good luck to all of you.
Okay.
Thanks, Johanna. So people can go to shadowlandthelegend.com.
Shadowlandthelegend.com, or look for Shadowland the Legend trailer on YouTube.
Right.
And you're welcome to contact us. There is an email address on our website. Please don't send anything to the mailing address, because it doesn't make any sense. Rather, contact us at afterrainfilms@gmail.com.
Fantastic. And so why don't we just take a little break, and we're going to show we've got the other graphic that we're showing, right?
Yeah.
Did you have the other one?
It was the same.
Okay. Well, let's put that up while we listen to some music, and then people can get a sense of it.
Yes,
some
maybe
more.
with the website address underneath.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Johanna. And we're going to come back with Ross Beatty right after this, talking about solar energy and more as Liquid Lunch continues. We'll be right back.
Well, you told me that you want me. You wanna hold me night and day. Ooh, you told me that you want me. You wanted me in every way. tell me to hit the road, Jack. And you say to me, baby, you tell me to hit the road, Jack. Oh, you ruined my happy evening, yeah. Now, baby, you better give it back. You had to say, but you never felt more far away. Out of sight and out of mind, my baby left me far behind. Now's my turn to make you see, ain't never getting no loving from me. Tell me truths, but make your mind what you wanna do. I never liked you anyway. But you never felt more far away. My turn to make you see, they never getting no loving from me.
And welcome back to Liquid Lunch, and we're here with Hitting the Home Stretch. We got Ross Beatty joining us here.
Hello, Ross Beatty.
Nice to be here.
Welcome.
So, yeah, Hilton, I know you wanted to sort of start with Ross has got a great history, apparently.
Well, how does one get to be, I was fascinated with the Solar Bank Corp, and I sort of hit on the idea of bank in the middle of that. But I know you a little bit in your history. You're not just a banker. You're not just an investment person. How did you get here? Where did you come from? Tell us about Ross.
Well, thank you for asking about me. I'm a Torontonian.
Yes.
I grew up here. University of Toronto grad, St. Michael's College, rah-rah.
Yes.
I took philosophy. I was interested in the old letters, from the Greeks right on through. After I graduated in the mid-'70s, I went right to Bay Street.
How did that happen?
Well, I was also interested in finance.
Yeah.
I was a musician, and I enjoyed producing, and one needs to eat. And
what kind of musician were you?
I was a producer, a director, and I also play the piano, the keyboards.
Okay. Me too.
Yeah. So I've heard.
Who did you play with? Anybody we may remember?
Oh, Toronto groups.
Yeah.
Toronto groups. I also produced chamber music. In the Guelph area, I had a chamber festival called Music at Speedside. And in the Bahamas, I had a chamber festival called Strings Over the Caribbean. And in Halifax, I had a festival called Highland Sounds. So what I've what I've tried to do throughout the course of the last 5 decades is balance. Balance between the arts,
yes,
balance between finance and technology. I started, as I mentioned, on Bay Street in the mid-'70s, and I worked myself through to eventually being the regional director for the largest brokerage firm in Canada. It's called Midland Walwyn at the time. I managed about 1,000 people and about $10 billion under administration. That was a good experience. That firm was bought by Merrill Lynch. So I decided to continue my growth, and I started my own brokerage firm. I built that up, and eventually I sold that to go on to other things. You asked about the Bank Corp, the Solar Bank Corp. That was all a part of the progression.
Yes.
In the mid-2000s, my clients asked me, well, you know, you've done pretty good for us so far. What's next? What's the trend? And in investment finance, we always like to look out a year or 2 or 3. I took a look around the world, and China's growth was hitting 10%. India's growth was about 9%. The euro market back then in the mid-2000s was very strong and very good. North America was good, and South America. So I said, well, all economies are doing well. This is about 2005. What's fueling this? What was fueling this was oil.
Cheap energy.
It was very cheap, Hugh. You're absolutely right. It was $20.25 a barrel. It was controlled. Growth was stronger than it's ever been. Population growth was stronger than it's ever been. But the price of oil wasn't going up. Economics 101 says supply is diminishing, demand is increasing, price is supposed to go up. Price wasn't going up. It was because it was controlled. It was a controlled commodity. I then took a look at the reserves of oil for the world. Now, the world's this big, and every year 100 million barrels get used. And it's just a matter of time before there's no more oil. So how much time is that? And all my readings told me about 25 years we'll have no more oil. So if we have no more oil in 25 years, demand is going up, population is going up. The people who control oil prices will eventually take the lid off the price to maximize the return on their commodity. In other words, lift the lid and let it float. I looked again and I saw that they hadn't built a refinery, an oil refinery, for 40 years. So if they haven't built a refinery for 40 years and the consumption of oil is going up, they know something the rest of the world doesn't know. There's not going to be any more oil. They're not going to invest in it. They're just going to pump it out. So I said to my investors, I've got some good news, I've got some bad news, and I've got some good news. And they said, what's the first good news? And I said, we have to buy oil because it's going to go through the roof. Why? It's never gone over $30. Well, it's going to very soon because they're going to take the lid off. What's the bad news? Well, the bad news is when it floats over $100 a barrel, the world's going to come to an end financially. We're going to have a crisis like we've never had before. Banks are going to go under, governments are going to go under, corporations like General Motors are going to go under. They said, that will never happen. And I said, it will happen because we're not used to anything but cheap oil. So what's the good news? Well, the good news is after the catastrophe that stops the world economically, Economics 101 adjusts and they say, let's not let that happen again. And they'll look for an alternative to oil. And the alternative to oil is renewable energy. So I said, we buy oil, we sell oil, we invest in solar, wind, biomass, geothermal. Really? That catastrophic? And I said, I hate to tell you, but it's going to happen. We hit the wall in 2008.
Yes.
Oil went to $147 a barrel. The world stopped financially. Every major bank in the world, except for Canadian banks, every major bank in the world needed financial assistance from governments that didn't even have the money. Unfortunately, what I thought was going to happen did happen. In the meantime, we did invest in oil, we did sell oil, and I started Solar Bank Corp. We raised a few $1 million, and we started to invest in next generation technology. I believed that solar was going to be our future. And I don't mean for a couple of years, I mean a new era, a new epoch. Except the panels back in the mid-2000s were heavy, expensive, inefficient, and they just didn't make any sense. So I said, why don't we put our oil gains into next generation, third, fourth. I searched the world. I went to Russia, Ukraine, New Zealand, United States. I searched for people who had spent 2, 3, 4 decades in their labs at the university or in their basements, people with a real dedication to new technology for solar. And we invested in thin film flexible solar technology. We were well ahead of the curve. And then I got a knock on the door from Queen's Park saying, you know, we're watching what you're doing, and we're thinking about bringing in a feed-in tariff similar to Germany. And you've been involved with solar for a while. Come on down. So we had a few talks. Germany had a feed-in tariff, the highest in the world. And with Minister Smitherman's group, they put together a feed-in tariff that was higher than Germany. It was the best in the world.
Was this the program where the government will guarantee that they'll buy back the power at a certain
yes
the excess overflow
value?
That's it.
Yes.
Okay.
It's called the feed-in tariff. It was a part of the New Energy Act from the Liberals, and that was brought out in 2008. Mm-hmm. So we've been at it for a few years.
Can you tell us what is the comparison between Germany and here, and why is it so great, specifically?
Germany saw the light as well. Germany doesn't produce oil. They don't produce gas. They've been buying from Germany, or excuse me, from Russia, and they've been buying from the North Sea.
Yes.
So, you know, Germany is a very industrialized country, and they need oil. They need gas.
Yes.
But they don't need to have a stranglehold from a foreign nation saying, well, I think we'll turn it off today, or we just doubled the price. So 20 years ago, Germany decided that in order for them to be more self-sufficient and not dependent on foreign oil and foreign gas, they would create an alternative energy industry. So 20 years ago, they started to incent individual investors like yourselves and myself to invest in solar and wind. They've been going for about 20 years. Their feed-in tariff, which is, as you said, Hugh, it's the amount of money that the government pays for the production of solar energy and of wind energy. That's the feed-in tariff. It was actually the highest in the world. Ours was 30% higher than that. That's how aggressive our Liberal government in Ontario was. They said, we want not only to be the best in the world, we want to be the first in Canada. We want to produce 50,000 new jobs in Ontario. We want to close down our 7 coal generators. We have 7 coal generators in Ontario, and they're all doing what coal generators do.
Yes.
We've got nuclear here. The nuclear takes 15 to 20 years to build another one. We do have hydro, which is a clean energy, hydroelectricity, but they said there's really no wind and there's no solar energy. So they brought out the feed-in tariff in Ontario to incent investors, not for the government to spend money, but for private enterprise to spend money on building solar plants and building wind plants. I thought it was quite ingenious. I wasn't involved. I was involved in the technology, on the science. Solar Bancorp was an IP, intellectual property, owning patents, supporting scientists. But when the feed-in tariff came into Ontario, I said, stage 2, here we go. We created another vertical. It's called Solar Source. And Solar Source produces and installs, designs and engineers solar systems. We produced another vertical, going back to my background, which is corporate finance. We basically raise the capital for the major projects here. We invest, we loan money to the major projects because they're quite expensive. A 250 kilowatt project cost about $1.5 million. That would go on a 50,000 square foot roof. So $1.5 million, not everybody can write that check, so we help them write that check. So Solar Bancorp started off as a science company, developing intellectual property and advancing new technologies, and we still are. We're way out there, and we're very excited about that. But because Ontario has such a wonderful feed-in tariff, we decided to participate by loaning money to the participants, as well as by doing our own projects.
Essentially, that sets you up almost as a micro-utility, doesn't it?
We create the energy.
Yes.
The OPA buys it from us.
Okay.
It's interesting because it seems to me that's natural, that if you've got a technology like solar,
yes,
that someone can install, and that it's going to have a break-even point out, a few years out, and it's going to mean positive cash flow, revenue positive in the long run. It only makes sense that a bank could come along finance that because it's paid for
Everyone wins.
in the long run.
You couldn't have put it better, Hugh. Ontario's credit rating is the highest in Canada. Ontario Power Authority is the Ontario government. The contract that we sign is for 20 years. 20-year contract guaranteeing. Remember the old Canada savings bonds? Well,
Payment.
they were for 7 years.
Mhm.
This is for 20 years with the same government. And they guarantee that if you can deliver them energy from wind or from solar or from biomass or from hydro, they will pay you every month. And investors look at that and say, you know, it's been kind of rough out in the stock market for the last 3 years. Here I can get 12% on my money, 10% on my money, 13, 14, depending upon how much your project costs. The rates of return are pretty attractive compared to negative rates of return. GICs right now, 1.5%, 2%. Comparative, it's a very good investment. So it's been exciting. And not only is it happening in Ontario, but 2 months ago, the second province in Canada brought out a feed-in tariff. That was Nova Scotia. So there's only 2 provinces so far, but there's going to be 10. So far, there's 2 provinces. Nova Scotia just brought out one. They don't have much.
Same rates as Ontario?
Their rates for wind are higher.
Okay.
Their rates for biomass are higher. They have tidal because they've got the Bay of Fundy. We don't have any tidal here.
Right.
So they've got an excellent tidal feed-in tariff. We've got lots of sun. They don't have much sun. They've got clouds, so they don't have a solar feed-in tariff. Okay. But that's the second province. We received calls from Sri Lanka. They would like to build solar there. We're getting calls from Oman. I'm working, this is exciting. I was a professor for a number of years, and I'm very interested in education. In South America, there are no renewable energy colleges. None. They've got the best sun because they're on the equator. I'm very close with a number of colleges here in Canada that have renewable energy programs. So we have arranged with the Canadian colleges to export their curriculum to Brazil. Brazil's very excited about it because they have a wind industry, very small, and just started. They have no solar yet, but they know with 200 million people in Brazil, there's incredible demand for knowledge because this is the new era energy program that's spreading. It's like wildfire. It's like the plague. It's spreading across the world. So we're bringing technology. We're not only bringing technology, we're bringing skills. We're not only bringing skills, we're bringing education to the different areas. Every country wants to promote new jobs. They want to promote new technology. They want to promote next generation energy programs. We know about climate change. We know about pollution. We know the challenges there. Well, they want solutions. So in Canada, we're, especially in the college situations, we're quite advanced with the education, and they want our education. They want our skills, and we want to help them. So it's an exciting time. It's the new era, and it's the beginning of the new era of energy. And at the beginning, what did Nietzsche say? You know, it's always lonely being right. There's not too many of us right now.
You know, one of the reasons Ontario did this, I think, and you mentioned it, is that they were trying to kind of kickstart Ontario's place as an innovator, a manufacturer, of this new technology. And you've got in your search around the world for next generation solar technology. Like, what have you discovered? What are we doing? You know, how is the state of the technology? Because they were always saying it was so expensive before, it was heavy and all those things. Have great strides been made in the technology?
The state of the technology in the mid-2000s was really, it was unacceptable. You talked earlier, Hugh, about grid parity. You know, when does it get to the point where we don't need subsidies anymore? Well, let me tell you, when I first started in the business, solar panels were $6 and $7 a watt. Now they're $1.50. So they can't go more $1.50 down because that'll be zero, but they've come down in price so much and the efficiencies have gone up so much that technology is at grid parity with these rates. If they drop the rates, we're still going to make a profit. Now, I think what you're getting at is can we install solar panels and not need subsidies. In the Bahamas, if you were living in the Bahamas, you would pay 45 cents a kilowatt hour. Here you pay 8 in Ontario. When you write your check to Hydro One, you pay 8 cents. In the Bahamas, they pay 45. So in Bermuda, they pay 55. In different islands in the Caribbean, because they have no oil, they have to import everything, they pay a lot of money. So we can go down to the Caribbean, and we are, and we can install without a feed-in tariff, and they save money because they pay so much right now for electricity. We're quite spoiled here. We're only paying 8 cents. In Prince Edward Island, they're paying 15 cents a kilowatt. So it's an exciting time. Every country has a different level of energy expenditure.
Yeah, we are, I think, paying very low rates relative to most other people in the world, even New York State.
Absolutely.
But can we be self-sufficient? Like, can a home, do you think we'll ever get to the stage where a home can be self-sufficient by putting up some solar panels, maybe some wind on the roof, some geothermal in the city?
In Israel, every home must have a hot water solar panel on their roof to make their own hot water. There are 2 states in Brazil right now that just passed laws that every new building must have solar energy or wind energy so that they can become self-sufficient. The trend you're talking about has started already. There was an article yesterday, a TD Bank just announced that one of their banks is energy neutral. They make as much money with their solar panels as they consume. That's exciting. Are we going to get there? Absolutely. It's physics.
Yep.
And the technology's getting better.
Technology is getting better and cheaper.
Yeah.
And energy prices are doing nothing but going up. So as energy prices go up, our costs for energy products are going down. We're at grid parity in the Bahamas right now. We're at grid parity in Bermuda. We're at grid parity because they are paying so much and they keep paying more and more and more. I lived in Nassau for 10 years, and every year they increase the energy by significant amounts. So they're excited about solar energy.
So is this something that homeowners can take advantage of? They getting in
Ontario,
on this?
every single homeowner can be on the feed-in tariff. They receive 80 cents a kilowatt hour of solar energy produced. They pay 6, they pay 7, they pay 8. They receive 80. Every single homeowner should be on this plan. Every single homeowner should be learning about, it's called microfit, the microfit plan from the Ontario government. It's on the internet, microfit. I can certainly help talk about it with them if they have any questions. We have many people that are involved with this, but every single homeowner should have solar panels.
And is this something that Solar Bancorp would lend money to individual homeowners to do this?
This is what we do. We design, we engineer, we install, we assist with financing.
Okay. So now, just your general sense of it, because this program's been around for, I don't know, about a year, something like that.
I see.
Are people, are they disappointed with the numbers of people and businesses that are taking advantage of this? Do they really want to get more and more people ramped up to this?
Quite the opposite. They didn't expect to have as many applications as they received. They expected this many, they got this many. So that has slowed down the whole bureaucracy because they were inundated with applications. So the opposite's happened.
And it's costing
money. It's caught
money.
on.
And it's costing money in a sense, right? Because they're paying a subsidized rate for the power.
Yes, but they're not paying any money to build them. This is why I thought that Minister Smitherman was brilliant. He is creating new energy without having to spend any taxpayers' money.
Because the infrastructure costs for a new nuclear plant, like billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
and that's just
very
the
difficult
estimate.
to understand how much money it is and how long it takes.
And for inefficient use, in terms of environmental pollution, from other sources, again, the cost is, incalculable.
We've had some catastrophes.
Yes.
Chernobyl.
Yeah.
What happened in Japan because of nuclear. And countries as strong economically as Germany and France have said, we're not going to build any more nuclear. People are saying, we don't want to go down that road. It's unknown. It's scary. From what I've seen, I don't like.
Yeah.
So what is the alternative? And the alternative to nuclear is hydro, it's solar, and it's wind, and it's biomass. biomass is an extremely exciting recirculation of waste energy into energy.
Yes.
That's another topic for another day, but it's extremely exciting. We should aim at making as much energy as we consume. That's my personal goal, to make as much energy as I consume. That would be
to walk gently on the earth so that we can actually have a chance at positive impact rather than consumptive.
We have just gone through 7 billion people.
Yes.
8 billion will happen.
Yes.
And it won't happen at the end of our life. It'll happen in the next few years.
Yes.
1900, there was less than 1 billion people on Earth. 100 years ago, there was less than 1 billion people on Earth. Now there's 7 billion. In 100 years, there's 7 billion.
Okay, so we're going to need some solar panels.
Exciting times.
Okay, so Ross, if people want to get in touch and they want to find out more, or they want to find out more about what you guys do, like, is there a website?
SolarBankCorp.com. One word. SolarBankCorp.com.
BANCORP.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Okay, Ross. Thanks for doing this today. Great.
It's been very exciting. It's nice to be here.
Yeah. Super. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for your wisdom.
We're working at it.
Okay. I guess that's the show, Hilton.
Learned
It was
a
a
few
great
more
show
things today. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And got some more stuff to read. Oh, and I should mention the music that we're going to go out with is from this band, The Distillery. What You Told Me. That's what we've been listening to all show. So we'll go out with some more of that. And thanks for doing this, and thanks to all our great guests.
Beautiful.
Okay. All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow at noon for more Liquid Lunch right here on thatchannel.com. See you then.
Been gone for too long, but please don't break up my happy home. Please don't knock on our door. Please don't knock on our door. When I get back, you just won't care no more. Please leave my baby alone. Well, please leave my baby alone. I know I've been gone for too long. Please don't. you one floppy ear. Jackie, you are my dear. You'll always be number one. We have so much Well, you told me that you want me. You wanna hold me night and day. Ooh, you told